Welcome everyone to this year's Yom HaShoah Tekes. I would especially like to welcome and thank all the survivors and senior citizens who were able to join us today. Yom HaShoah is a day designated to commemorating and remembering the horrors that occurred during the Holocaust. We are getting further and further away from the Holocaust with every passing year, and the stories and memories are becoming more distant from us. It is important to take the time now to hear the stories of survivors and carry on their memories to ensure that a barbarity like this never happens again. I would now like to ask everyone to stand and listen to the siren. Please be seated. I would now like to call up Mishlaf to read the prophecy of the Atzamot HaYeveshot from Yechezkel.
I'm about to read Yechezkel, Perek Lamed Zayin. The Navi Yechezkel prophesies to Bnei Yisrael when they were in Galut, in exile in Bavel. In this particular parak, Hashem shows Yechezkel a valley filled with dried bones and asks Yechezkel to command the bones to rise. Tendons and skin begin to form on the bones. The bones rise and they're filled with spirit. What was a few moments ago a valley of dried bones is now a field teeming with life. Hashem then tells Yechezkel that the bones symbolize Bnei Yisrael, who, although they have lost hope when they're in Galut, they will be given a new life in Eretz Yisrael. We read this parak every year on Yom HaAtzmaut, and we will read it again next week, because it's a beautiful articulation of the way in which Eretz Yisrael provides hope and promise. So why are we reading it today on Yom HaShoah? Because the production we are about to see is in itself a resurrection of dried bones. The survivors, along with our students, are taking the destruction of the past and through their partnership, transforming it into a story of hope. Haita alai yad Adonai, v'yotzienu v'ruach Adonai, v'yanicheni b'toch habika, v'himle'a atzamot. V'havirani alehem saviv saviv, v'hine rabot ma'od, al pnei habika, v'hine yeveshot ma'od. V'yomer elai, ben adam, hatechyena ha'atzamot ha'ela. V'omar, Adonai Elohim, atay adata. V'yomer elai, hinave al ha'atzamot ha'ela, v'amarta alehem, ha'atzamot ha'yeveshot, shim'u dvar Adonai. Ko amar Adonai Elohim la'atzamot ha'ela. Hine ani mevi v'chem ruach v'chitem. V'natati alechem gidim, v'haleti alechem basar, v'karamti alechem or, v'natati v'chem ruach v'chitem, v'yadatem ki ani Adonai. V'nibeti kasher tzuveti, v'yikol ki hinavi, v'hine ra'ash, v'tikruvu atzamot etzem el atzmo. V'ra'iti, v'hine alehem gidim, uvasar Allah, vayikram alehem or milmala, v'ruach im bahem. Vayomer elai, hinave el haruach, hinave ben adam, ve'amarta el haruach, ko amar Adonai Elohim, me'arba ruchot boi haruach, ufechi b'harugim ha'ela, v'yichyu. V'nabeti kasher tzivani, v'tavo vahem haruach v'yichyu, v'yamdu ha'ela kol beit Yisrael hema. Hine omrim yavshu atzmotenu ve'avda tikvatenu, nigzarnu lanu. Lachen, hinave ve'amarta alehem, ko amar Adonai Elohim, hine ani foteach et kivrotechem, ve'ha'aleti etchem mikivrotechem ami, ve'veti etchem el admat Yisrael. V'yadatem ki ani Adonai bifitchi et kivrotechem, uv'ha'aloti etchem mikivrotechem ami. V'natati ruchi vachem v'chitem. V'nachdi etchem al admatchem, v'yadatem ki ani Adonai dibarti ve'asiti ne'um Adonai.
Every year, I approach Yom HaShoah with apprehension. The biggest struggle for me is trying to connect to and understand an atrocity so intense that it is literally unimaginable. I sit in the dark auditorium trying to piece together the stories and hope to connect to the program for this year. This is one of the reasons I decided to participate in WiTNESS Theater. I realized I did not have a strong enough understanding of what happened and what people went through during the Holocaust. WiTNESS Theater was a remarkable opportunity for me to develop close relationships with people who had survived the Holocaust and to hear their stories. Everyone you are about to see on stage has come together at SAR for 2 hours every Monday night since September. We spent September through December getting to know the survivors, developing relationships with them, and hearing their life stories from before, during, and after the war. Except this wasn't a simple interview. With the guidance of our drama therapists, Jessica Ash and Ms. Kay, we experienced these stories as opposed to simply hearing them. And the adults weren't merely telling a story, they were also reflecting. Through this process, the survivors gave us their stories with an added level of detail and richness, stories that we will carry with us forever. In January, Jessica Ash and Ms. Katzenellenbogen crafted a script out of these stories. The survivor is still the one telling you their story, while we act out certain scenes to convey an added level of richness to you. It is fitting that Pesach should fall out so close to Yom HaShoah. Arguably, the most important theme of the Seder is Chayav Adam lirot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim. Everyone is obligated to tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim as if they were there themselves. In a sense, this parallels what we are about to show you. Instead of simply interviewing the adults, we are taking on their roles, acting out their journeys to freedom. As our fellow classmates and peers, we hope this new angle touches you on a personal level. And we hope you feel more connected to the stories that will be shared by seeing your peers experiencing them. On behalf of the student participants, I now must thank Jess, Rabbi Birnbaum, Ms. Kay, Ronnie, and Michaela for all the hard work and the endless hours that went into creating this performance. And of course, I thank each and every adult. Margot, Inga, Eveline, Sonia, Andy, and of course Lillian and Liesel, whose health did not allow them to join us on stage today. Everyone participated, putting in crazy hours, and I thank all the adults for sharing so openly. We will cherish their stories forever.
What if it's too painful?
Inge, you're not listening alone. We all have each other.
And you have us. Let us help you remember.
I was born in 1921 in Heidelberg, Germany, and I grew up in a small town nearby. I lived with my mother, father, and younger sister, Margot. We were one of only 11 Jewish families in our town, and we had a good relationship with our Christian neighbors. All of that changed when Hitler came into power. I was 14 years old when Hitler Youth rallies began tearing through our town.
When the Jewish blood flows from our knives,
everything will be much better.
when the Jewish blood flows from our knives,
Everything will be much better.
when the Jewish blood, hey, dirty Jew!
Hey, dirty Jew!
Dirty
Dirty Jew! Look at her! Dirty Jew! Dirty Jew!
I couldn't understand why they hated me so much. Soon after, the Nazis closed down all Jewish-owned businesses, including my father's. It was getting more and more dangerous to live. My family and I locked ourselves in our home and closed the shutters. But we couldn't escape the daily Hitler Youth rallies. Realizing how bad things were getting, my parents decided it would be safer for me to go to America. I was only allowed to take one trunk with clothing and no more than $5. An SS officer watched my father pack.
We know you can't bring much, but your father, your sister, and I decided to get you this gift.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Thank you.
All the American girls have dresses just like that. It's perfect, Inga.
I'll take good care of it, I promise.
And when you wear it, you'll know we're with you.
Then I'll never take it off.
Don't worry, girls. We'll all move to America very soon to be together, I promise.
My parents never would join me overseas. I did not know it then, but this would be one of our last moments together. I boarded the ship to America and spent the 10-day trip sobbing. I was lonely, homesick, and nervous about what the future held. I arrived in America at the age of 17 and had a hard time adjusting to my new life. In 1940, I found out that my family was moved to a concentration camp in France. I was able to correspond with them through the Red Cross, but I miss them tremendously.
Dear Muda and Papa, it was so wonderful receiving your letter.
Remember, Inge, don't tell them how much you miss them. You don't want to worry them.
Life in America is great. I've made so many wonderful friends. We're always going out to parties, to the movies, and bowling. They keep me so busy that I barely have any time to myself.
After the movie, let's go to Harry's party.
Yeah, I heard everyone's going to be there.
It's going to be so much fun.
You're doing great, Inge. Now, don't mention how overwhelmed you are at your nannying job.
I found a job taking care of 2 lovely, polite, and respectful children. They're so well behaved that it hardly feels like work.
I wish I could have told my parents that I was miserable and homesick, but I didn't want them to worry. But little by little, my life started to improve. I began meeting American teenagers and going to night school to study English and bookkeeping. Eventually, I got a job in the garment district. I met my husband Nathan in 1943 when I was 21 years old, and we were married 6 months later. Nathan's family was also stuck in Germany, so we understood one another in a way that others could not.
Another letter came from my parents today.
Really? What does it say?
We have just been told that we must head east. Luckily, they're allowing Margot to stay in France. We don't know where we are being taken, but please don't worry about us. We will write as soon as we can. All our love, Papa and Muda. Where do you think they're being taken, Nathan?
I don't know.
Moving east. Do you think that's bad?
I don't know. We must hope for the best, Inga.
I know.
I saved all of my parents' letters in a box, and I added this one to the collection. We kept waiting for their next letter to arrive, but it never did. Nathan and I tried to stay hopeful, but as more time passed, I started to fear the worst. The following year, when I was 24, I gave birth to a baby girl.
She's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
I know. I can't believe she's ours.
What should her name be?
Let's name her Carol, after my mother.
You mustn't say that, Inga.
I want her name to be carried on.
There's still a chance that our parents are alive. We can't give up hope.
You're right. But you did have an Aunt Carol, though. What if we name her after your aunt?
All right. A lovely name for a lovely little lady.
All this time, I had been communicating with my sister Margot, and in 1946, she was finally able to come to America. It had been 8 years since I last saw my little sister, and in that time, she grew into a young woman. Our reunion was extremely emotional, and I was overjoyed to have Margot with me, safe at last.
That's when Muda and Papa were taken to Auschwitz concentration camp.
Then what happened?
They never made it out.
Stop, Margaret. I can't listen to this anymore.
Wait, Inga.
It's too painful. I can't bear it.
It's okay, Inga. I'll listen for the both of us. Just go rest.
Eventually, I was able to take in Margot's full story. I grieved then for my family and for the millions of others who perished. Then I closed up the box of my parents' letters and put it on the top shelf of my closet to be able to move on with my life, to be able to live. I could never look at the letters again. So there they remain to this day.
I was born in Germany in 1931, and I grew up in Brussels, Belgium. I lived a loving, comfortable home with my mother, father, and younger sister, Hanny. We went to school with all sorts of children, we always had food to eat, and we never had to struggle. I was a tomboy, and I remember loving to ride the merry-go-round near my house. I craved the feeling of liberation it gave me. Once I got on that horse, I never wanted to stop spinning. But the freedom and ease I felt in my early life came to an abrupt halt when I was 10 years old. My father woke me up one morning and told me that we were leaving for Paris immediately. We quickly packed, piled into a cab, and left Brussels behind. When we got to the Parisian border, our driver could not go further.
The border guards are stricter than I'd hoped. I don't think they'll let us through.
Quick, Sonia, give the pillow to your mother. Now, Dora, put the pillow under your shirt. Listen to me, girls. We are going to pretend that your mother is pregnant. Hopefully the border guards will take pity on her and let us through. Can you make believe?
Yes, Papa.
Excuse me, officers. My family and I would like to cross the border. As you can see, my wife is very pregnant. Will you take pity on her and let us through?
You may pass.
I didn't realize how incredible it was at the time, but my father came up with this brilliant plan in mere seconds. He was so quick on his feet. We stayed in a hotel in Paris for 3 months, but once we realized that the Nazis were there as well, we decided to return to Brussels. I wish I could say it was good to be home, but my life in Brussels was changing dramatically.
Hey, Paul.
What are you wearing? Are you Jewish?
Yeah, but wait, Paul, where are you going? You're
Not
my
anymore.
best friend.
You dirty Jew.
I lost my best friend because of that star. I was confused. I was destroyed, and I was furious. I ran home and took out all my anger on my mother.
Sonia, hold still.
No, I won't wear the stupid star anymore. You can't make me.
Sonia, you don't understand. She has no choice.
I don't care what Hitler does to me. I'm not wearing it.
It's not her fault. She's trying to protect you.
Just get off me.
Wait, Sonia!
I wish now that I could apologize to my poor mother, but I didn't understand. I was just a child. Things continued to get worse for the Jews. One morning in 1943, when I was 11, my father left on a business trip. When he didn't return, my mother and I went to look for him. We returned to Brussels empty-handed and were told that the Gestapo was in our home. The very next day, I was put in the convent and renamed Michelle. My sister Honey eventually joined me there as well.
Dear God, as you know, I'm a Jew, so I don't really belong at Mass. In fact, I don't belong in this convent at all, and I truly hate it here. It's dark, the nuns are scary, and I'm so hungry. But listen, God, I'll make you a deal. If you promise to bring my father home safely, I promise I'll become a Catholic. Amen.
I kept threatening to run away. Fearing for our safety, my mother somehow convinced the director of the summer camp to take in Honey and me. Once there, we went to school and had some semblance of a normal life. Still, I lived in constant fear.
Honey, did you hear that?
What?
It sounded like footsteps. I think it's the Gestapo.
Sonia, I didn't hear a thing. It's not the Gestapo. For the last time, go to sleep.
I had countless sleepless nights at the camp. Then in 1945, when I was 13, we finally heard over the radio that we were liberated. Our mother picked us up that very same day, and we joined the tremendous celebration on the Avenue Boulevard Anspach in Brussels.
Viva Viva
Chicago way. He felt that no one else could play. He was the top man at his craft. But then his number came up and
We were all overjoyed and that we survived, but at the same time, our emotions were mixed. We had all lost someone, and my father was still missing. There were blackboards that listed the name of the survivors of concentration camps. Every night, my family and I hoped to find my father's name on the list.
okay.
After 3 months, we realized that my father was not coming back. It was up to my mother, my sister, and me to rebuild our life on our own.
I was born in Hungary in 1930, and I grew up in Yugoslavia with my mother, father, and 2 older brothers. I had 2 younger sisters who died at a young age. My family was extremely religious, and my 2 brothers and I went to Cheder to learn Hebrew, Chumash, and Talmud. At my public school, there were many fights between the Jews and the Hungarians. A few of the Gentiles of my class secretly gave me moral support, but the Hungarian bullies picked on the weaker Jewish kids. Some of my teachers encouraged and even instigated this anti-Semitism. So from a very early age, I learned the importance of fighting back.
Hey, dirty Jew!
So God, mir helfen.
What was that?
Didle, 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 die.
We're gonna hang you from a tree.
Hey! Leave him alone! Run, Meyer!
But
Go, I can handle this!
You want to fight us yourself, Christ killer?
Bad move. You know that even if you win, we'll just get someone bigger to beat you up.
I know, but it'll be well worth it.
Suit yourself.
Yugoslavia was being pressured by Germany to take their sides in the war. We knew that even if Yugoslavia resisted, Germany would invade and things would get worse for the Jews. The handwriting was on the wall.
Tata, I had a terrible dream.
What is it, Alti?
I dreamt that there was a German soldier on the Bulgarian border. He was holding a pistol, and instead of bullets, blood shot out in full force. It's gonna be a bloody war, Tata, I know it.
Alti, I'm sorry that you had a nightmare. I'm sure you feel shaken up, but...
We have to join the partisans with the Serbs!
What? Absolutely not!
We have to show those dirty Germans that Jews can stand up for themselves!
Shh. Don't speak that way. Someone will hear you. We are staying right where we are. We must trust in Hashem. He will protect us. You understand?
In 1941, when I was 11, the Hungarians invaded Yugoslavia and joined the German efforts. In 1944, the Germans took over Hungary, and all the Jews had to wear yellow stars, were not allowed on the streets, and were arrested and deported. My family and I were put on a cattle car with thousands of others from our region. We traveled without food or water, and many died along the way. After 3 days, the train stopped, and my family was removed and chosen to work as forced laborers. I was starving and absolutely desperate.
Excuse me, comrade.
Yes?
Do you think you could spare some food? I can't bear the hunger pains any longer.
You know, I could kill you for even asking.
I know. I figured you'd either kill me or give me food. Either way would put me out of my misery.
All right. Don't tell anyone, but I still have my ration of bread from the day. Here, take it. Quickly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll share this with my entire family.
In 1945, when I was still 14, my family and I were taken to Theresienstadt ghetto. The ghetto housed many artists, members of intelligentsia, and there were concerts, lectures, and theater productions mounted often. We did simple manual labor and were not abused. Even so, conditions were awful and hunger was agonizing. Many people died from typhoid and other illnesses, and many were sent to Auschwitz. The Red Cross would come and visit. When they did, we were forced to pretend that life in Theresienstadt was great.
And here's our pharmacy. As you can see, we are fully stocked with all the latest medications, toiletries, and periodicals.
Very nice.
The stores are for display only. There is nothing to buy. You just go inside and look around.
And here are two of our inmates carrying bread. As you can see, the food here is plentiful.
Indeed.
They've been carrying the same bread back and forth all day. There is no food there.
And here is our newly renovated restroom. It has modern, state-of-the-art appliances.
It's really quite lovely.
The water was disconnected. You can't actually use the restroom. It's entirely for show. We wanted to tell the Red Cross what the ghetto was really like, but the Nazis warned us that we'd be sorry. I remained in Theresienstadt and worked the night shift. On the night of May 9, 1945, my friend ran in, excited and out of breath.
Alter Yid, stop working right this minute.
Why? What happened?
We're liberated. We're liberated. They opened the gates and everyone is screaming, hugging, and dancing in the streets.
Hala istanek.
You'll never believe this. I saw a Russian soldier holding a gun to a Nazi's head. It was the most beautiful sight. Come on, let's go join the celebration.
I celebrate May 9th, the day of my liberation, every year. It's the day I was reborn. Liberation was thrilling, but 2 days later, Theresienstadt was quarantined because of the typhoid epidemic. When the quarantine ended, trains were sent to take us back home. I went ahead of my family, and the train I took was packed with soldiers. I climbed up to the packed roof.
Here we go. There's a steel banister in front of us. Let's brace ourselves.
Better hang on tight.
I'm so tired.
You have to keep yourself awake.
I can't. I have to close my eyes for a bit.
Don't lose your grip.
I won't.
I drifted off to sleep. I don't know how long I was sleeping, but I woke suddenly with a start.
Where's everybody?
They're all gone.
Did I miss a stop?
No, kid.
What happened?
They all either fell or were knocked off the train.
What?
Some died from the fall. Others were run over by the train afterward.
They're dead. Even
him. It's just you and me, kid.
The war was over, but I was still battling that at every turn. The steel banister saved my life. I finally made it home, and I discovered that the anti-Semitism in my hometown had not subsided. My fight was not yet done.
Hey, you!
Here we go again.
Christ killer, you should have been killed off by the war. Why'd you come back?
I came back to be a thorn in your eyes, and when I get a chance, I'm gonna kill you.
I never got that opportunity, but I'm sure he's left it one eye open from that point on. A week later, my family joined me, and we began to work of rebuilding our lives.
I was born in 1928 in Hellenthal, Germany, and my family moved to Bielefeld in Westphalia, near Hanover, Germany, when I was 8. I lived comfortably with my mother, father, and younger sister, Laura. We kept a kosher home, but we were not observant. I felt more German than Jewish. My father fought in World War I, and my family had deep German roots going back to the 17th century. My fondest childhood memories are of visiting my grandparents' homes. My grandfather, Leo, had a cigar factory and a peach garden. Sometimes my cousins, my sister and I would cause trouble by stealing his tobacco and his fruit. I was the oldest, and I'll admit I was often the instigator.
64, 65, 66? Some of my peaches are missing. Looks like those troublemakers are at it again.
He's coming, Margot.
Quick, hide the peaches.
I happened to be in my garden and I noticed that a few of my peaches were missing. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?
Maybe the neighbor's dog got to them?
Maybe. Luckily, I have magical detective skills. I can tell who stole my peaches just by touching one of you on the nose. Let's see if it works.
Wait, don't! It was us.
We confess! We confess!
Life was good back then. I swam, played soccer, and was a social butterfly. I can remember no anti-Semitism, but in November of 1938, Kristallnacht changed everything. Schools were burned and businesses were destroyed. A few weeks later, I was expelled from school for being Jewish. I was forced to stay home, lonely and bored. My neighbors were kept taken away by the police, and in June of 1943, when I was 15, my family was shipped to Theresienstadt ghetto. That's where I met the person who would become my saving grace during the war, my lifelong friend, Dieter.
Hey, you look lost. Are you new here? What's your name?
Margot.
Hi, Margot. I'm from Vienna. Where are you from?
Germany.
Well, Margot from Germany. I'm Dieter from Vienna, and you can stick with me.
I was happy in Theresienstadt. We were always hungry, but we kept busy and were not mistreated. But in May of 1944, my family was loaded into a crammed cattle car with little food, no toilet, and no idea where we were going. After 2 days, we arrived in the family camp of Birkenau, the extermination camp of Auschwitz. Although the men and women were forced into separate barracks, we saw each other every day until...
Rouse! Rouse, woman, out of your bunks,
What's
now!
going on? Where are they taking us?
Line up, Schnell, let's go!
My mother, my sister, and I were herded into a line facing an SS officer. My father watched nearby.
Right. Left. Right.
I had no idea that right meant life and left meant death. I didn't know that this was the last time I would see my family. There are so many things I never got a chance to tell them.
Margot, I'm going to join your sister on the other line. She needs me more than you do.
Okay.
Nein, Mutti, don't leave me. I need you, Mutti.
Take care of yourself.
Mutti.
This line, we're moving out.
Vati, why are you crying? I've never seen you cry before.
Be strong, Margot.
I will, Vati.
I love you. I need you, Daddy. I need you, Fati. Don't leave me.
Vayisameach Elokim Kesara Rivka Rachel Vilaya. Whatever you do, you and Dita need to stick together.
Okay, Vati. We will.
Schnell!
I'll miss you. I'll miss you so. Just like that, they were gone from my life. I never got to say goodbye. Dieter and I were taken with a transport of 500 women to Hamburg, Germany, as forced laborers. Every morning, we were put on a barge and brought to work in a factory. We were hungry, cold, and tired, but we worked together, surrounded by nature.
I'm freezing in this rain.
Come here. We'll keep each other warm.
Wow, Dita. Dita, look. The sun is rising. It's so beautiful.
They tried to strip us of our dignity, but we managed to hold on to our humanity. We were able to appreciate the beautiful sunrise despite the rain and the cold. During that time, there were also some kindnesses shown to us. German officers and families risked their lives to give us food and water. After 2 months, we were happy when the bombings began. We knew it meant that the Allies were approaching. Still, it was a scary, devastating time.
Dita, get down!
I can't go to the shelter again.
I'll stay with you. Oh my God! There's an arm in someone's foot!
Don't look, Margot!
Tita, what if we don't make it?
Margot, we're going to make it.
The bombings worsened. I began to ache for my parents. But in all the horror, I had Dita, and Dita had me. We had someone to live for, and that knowledge kept us alive. In March of 1945, we will march through the icy snow with nothing but rags on our feet.
I can't walk anymore, Margot.
Tita, you can't stop. They'll shoot you.
Just leave me here, Margot.
Tita, I'm not going to leave you here. Get up. Come on, get up.
After 2 days of non-stop walking, we arrived at Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. We were greeted by piles of dead bodies lined up along the trees. Whatever people tell you about Bergen-Belsen, they cannot convey how bad it was. Bergen-Belsen was hell. There were 6 or 7 children per bunk, and there was no food or water. Every morning, we removed the dead from our bunk. In these brutal conditions, I contracted typhoid and became very ill. Dita cared for me and tried to keep me alive.
You're going to get much better, Margot. And when this is all over, we'll go to a beautiful island together. And we'll swim and eat delicious berries and watch the sunrise. You'll see.
On April 14th, 1945, a voice came over the loudspeaker telling us that the British had entered the camp. The next day, we were liberated and told to come to the hospital stations that had been set up. I was so sick with typhoid that I didn't know what was going on around me. But at 17 years old, I still had a strong will to live, and I was going to fight until the bitter end.
Is this the hospital station?
Yes. What's your nationality?
German.
We don't help Germans here.
But I'm Jewish.
We don't help Germans here.
Is this the hospital station?
Yes. What's your nationality?
Czech.
I was unconscious for 5 days. I woke up briefly and saw a cross and rosary beads up my head. I managed to protest, "No, I'm Jewish," before losing consciousness again. After 12 days, our family came through. I had survived.
was born in Paris, France, in 1932. I lived with my mother, my father, and my older sister, Rachel. I have wonderful memories of singing with my family, going to the movies, receiving candy from my father every Friday, and eating my mother's delicious bubbles. But my childhood ended in 1940 when the Germans invaded France. My family fled Paris for a small village in central France. It was clear then that everything had changed.
Papa, you look so different.
I know, Eveline. My hair turned gray overnight. I've never seen anything like it.
How did that happen?
From stress, Eveline. From being worried and sad.
But why are you sad? There's an armistice. Doesn't that mean the war is ending?
Yes, but our war is just beginning. There's a very bad man in charge now, named Adolf Hitler. He doesn't like the Jews, and it's going to be very bad for us all.
I felt like I had aged along with my father. My childhood now, a thing of the past. My family fled to Lyon in southern France. It was governed by the French state, so it was safer than the Nazi-occupied areas. My father was able to find work making pocketbooks. Being French citizens, my family and I were at an advantage, and we used our advantage to help other Jews. My father made a pocketbook with a false bottom and stored false identification papers inside. My sister Rachel was part of the Jewish French resistance, and as part of her position in the network, she delivered false papers to Jews in hiding.
Rachel, here is the delivery for today.
All right, I'll be back before dinner.
Don't forget our code. Ring the bell twice for friends and family, once for a stranger.
I know, Papa. I haven't forgotten.
Be careful, Rochelle.
Every time the doorbell rang, we jumped. In 1942, the Germans came to Lyon, and my family fled again, this time to the Italian-occupied Grenoble in the French Alps. The Italian army mostly left us alone. But in 1943, when I was 11, the police pounded on our door in the middle of the night.
Just one ring. This could be trouble.
Who's
Quiet,
at the door?
everyone. Quiet.
Shoveling, keep your voice down.
Police, open up.
Oh no, it's the police.
Abram, which way do you think they'll know we're in here?
We know you're in there. Open up.
My mom's scared. Shh, Eveline, it's okay. It's okay.
It's dark in the house. Let's just stay quiet and maybe they'll think we're not home.
We're coming in.
Excuse me, officer?
Yes.
I live next door. If you're looking for the family that lives here, they're not home.
Okay. I guess we won't break down the door this time. Let's try another house.
I saw the terror in my parents' eyes that night. The realization that they could not protect me shook me to my core. I wish I could comfort you and tell you that everything will be all right. I was so petrified that my teeth chattered all night. Our neighbors saved our lives, but we were no longer safe. My parents sent me to hide in a Catholic boarding school where I went to Mass, skied, and pretended to be happy. But when Jewish children were taken from a nearby convent, my parents hired a passeur to smuggle me into Switzerland. I was with a group of 10 children and a married couple. The wife was pregnant, and when she began having labor pains, the smuggler took the couple to a hotel. He left us children alone in a field behind some bushes, telling us to lie still until his return.
How long do you think we've been here?
I don't know. At least a few hours.
I'm freezing. I can't even feel my hands.
Here, have something hot to drink.
Quick, get down! I see German tanks passing by.
Are you cold too? Here, have some.
He crawled from child to child, sharing his hot drink. I did not know him, but in that moment, that boy was my hero. I'm still amazed at his courage and his kindness.
Thank you. Someone's coming!
Our pastor had been arrested and gave away our location to the French police, who took us into custody. The officer at the station was given carte blanche to do with us as he pleased. Instead of delivering us to the Gestapo, the police took us to a boarding school at the Swiss border. From there, the female principal and her assistant risked their lives, sneaking us to the border. And we climbed the barbed wire fence to safety in Switzerland. So to me, carte blanche means that I have grandchildren. In Switzerland, I was arrested and taken to a quarantine camp where I lived in terrible conditions for 2 months. I was then bounced around between foster homes and convents. On my birthday, August 22, 1944, my sister and my parents were liberated in Grenoble. In March of 1945, at 12 years old, the Red Cross put me on a train to Grenoble. I arrived safely, and on my way home from the station, I spotted Rochelle in a grocery store. She was on a date.
Rochelle? Rochelle! Rochelle! Eveline! Rochelle! Oh, I missed you! I thought I'd never see you again. How are you?
Are you okay?
Yes.
Hey, come on, you're making too much noise. Get out of my store. Come on.
Oh, Eveline. I ruined my sister's date, but I doubt she minded. I was home, and we were together again, although forever changed. I was robbed of my childhood, but the war was over now. It was up to me to reclaim my life. Lillian, we are sorry you're not here this morning, but this star is for you.
I was born in 1934 in Grabowiec, a small town in eastern Poland. For the first few years of my life, I was an only child, and I was the first grandchild on both sides of a large extended family. As you can probably imagine, I was spoiled and utterly showered with affection. The world was my oyster, and I believed it to be a fun and friendly place. But in 1939, during the partitioning of Poland, we found ourselves in the center of a border dispute between the Germans and the Russians. One day, bombs began to fall. My family and I huddled together in our flour mill.
It's happening just like I knew it would, Tata. I told you there would be a war.
It cannot be. Modern weapons are too strong. If there's a war, humanity will destroy itself.
It's already begun.
Tatush, what's a war?
A war, Lilia, is when people shoot at each other.
Oh. Well, what are weapons?
You asked too many questions, Lilia. Okay, I'm gonna go let the compressed air out of the tank.
Heschel, no, it'll make a tremendous noise. It will draw too much attention.
That's a risk we'll have to take. If it takes a hit, it'll blow us all up. I'll be right back.
Ow, it's so loud! Lilia, keep your voice down! Lilia, you have to
Okay,
keep
that's
quiet.
it. That's it.
Who's in there?
Open up! Oh no.
Go open this door or break it down. Let's go. Outside of us now.
What's happening?
Quickly.
You're taking them.
No!
Lilia!
That's my touches! That's my yardage! You can't hurt them!
We're not spies. There are no partisans here. We're just a Jewish family hiding at our mill.
Please leave us in peace.
I believe it. I believe you. Let's go.
Lilia, what were you thinking?
What were you thinking? Looking back on it now, I feel terror. But as a 5-year-old, I didn't understand what any of it meant. I was simply teaching the soldiers that it was wrong to point a bayonet at my father, at my grandfather. I was still convinced that nobody wanted to do me harm. That changed later. We left our home, crossing the border with the Russian soldiers. Soon after, we were shipped to a Siberian logging camp. After a year of forced labor, we escaped and settled in the Ukraine. In 1941, Germany bombed Kiev. I was in kindergarten, 100 kilometers away, when suddenly air raid sirens began to blare. My flustered teacher gathered the children together, telling us it was nap time. I hated nap time, so while my classmates ran for the shelter, I snuck out back to the garden. Why are you out here alone?
Wow, those are some loud noises.
Don't you realize you're in danger? Get inside.
Where's all that smoke coming from?
I was blissfully unaware that I was watching a bombing of my town.
Lillian, oh thank God. You scared me to death. Are you all right?
Oh, I'm fine. I was just eating some berries. Sorry I snuck out.
I did not comprehend the terror of what was happening. I hadn't yet seen dead bodies from explosions. I would soon understand. A few days later,
What happened?
Lilia, careful! Don't touch the shattered glass.
What happened to the windows? Why does Tatush have a bag packed?
Lilia, I'm going away.
What? Why?
I've been drafted into the army. All the Tatas have to go fight for Russia.
Well, tell them you can't go. Tell them you have to stay with your family.
It's a government order. Believe me, Lilia, I would stay if I could.
Why can't you?
I'm sorry. Be a good girl now, okay?
What?
Okay, help your
Wait,
mother with your brother, you hear?
Tatush!
I'll be home as soon as I can. I love you.
my father was gone. After that, the air raids worsened. During each attack, we took cover in the underground shelters, and I was terrified that the building would collapse, trapping us beneath the rubble. To this day, confined underground spaces frighten me.
That's the siren! Lilia, quick, to the shelter! Are you all right? We have to get out of here, Lilia. There's a boat taking the families of soldiers somewhere safe, away from the Germans. We have to leave right now. Come on, hurry.
I was 7 years old when fleeing the Ukraine with my mother and baby brother. We made it to the evacuation ship and boarded together.
Here, Mama, help me.
Okay, 1 second, Lilia. Watch your step. Okay. Stay close to me. Be careful.
We were just getting settled when...
Oh no, Lilia, I forgot the linens. Here, take your brother.
But
I'll be right back.
But
The moment my mother stepped off the ship, it began to pull away.
Mama?
Lilia? Mama! Lilia! Mama! Help! Lilia!
I was clutching my baby brother to my chest and screaming for my mother, terrified that I would never see her again. Our desperate cries must have shaken the captain, because by some miracle, he turned the boat around.
Mama?
Lilia!
Mama! Mama.
Thank God. My children. Oh, my children.
We were together and we were safe for one fleeting moment. Just as we got our bearings, the German bombers arrived.
Lilia, quick, get down!
Look, I can see the pilots. I can see their faces.
Lilia, I said get down! Cover your head!
Mama, we're going to die.
Look at me, Lilia. We are not going to die.
The German planes were flying so low that we could see the faces of the pilots inside. They were smiling, delighted to be killing innocent women and children. After our boat ride, my family was dumped on a train and began a long and arduous journey. We wound up in the Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan, a small town in a Muslim region. There were very few Jews, and we kept together, shared what we had, and barely survived. 1 year later, my family was reunited with my father. His return helped keep us alive. Time went on. I went to school, made friends, embraced the communist ideology, and became ashamed of my Jewish identity. When it was announced that Russia won the war and that we could return to Poland, my parents had to drag me with them. We returned in 1946, walked through Czechoslovakia, onto Austria, and made it to a DP camp in Germany. There, with the help of shlichim from Israel, I learned Hebrew, read the Tanakh, and most importantly, I got my Jewish identity back.
We have now shared our stories of survival.
But we are so much more than merely survivors.
We have all gone to experience long lives,
filled with joy and pain,
love and loss,
triumphs and tribulations.
After moving to this country, survival was no longer our full-time occupation.
And we were all able to work and contribute to society.
We discovered various passions and hobbies.
Whether it be photography,
design,
or education.
But most of all, we were fortunate to start families of our own.
We were blessed with the love of remarkable children,
grandchildren,
and even great-grandchildren.
That is the greatest affirmation of life.
And prove that Adolf Hitler did not win.
And we are still here.
We have now passed our stories on to you.
And we pass them on to all of you. Am Yisrael Chai!
hard to get up after such an incredible program, an incredible show. I really want to express the thanks of the entire high school to the whole crew that put together what a wonderful production this morning. As you entered the room, everyone was given a candle. And I want you to hold it up right now and take it out in front of you. On the name of each candle is the name of one of the victims of the Shoah. Whatever information we have about them, where they lived, when they were born, sometimes if we know when they perished, sometimes, like the one I'm holding, there is no death date because we don't know exactly when they perished. There's also a small QR code. Later on during the day, after the program, if you desire, I encourage you to scan the code and learn more about their lives and who they were. The number 6 million is a number that we throw out, and it's a very hard number to connect to. And I think this morning we've had the opportunity to hear the stories of individuals, and we're now going to light candles in memory of all of the korbanot of the Shoah, of all the 6 million. And I ask you to think about the person whose candle you hold in your hand right now. I ask you to think about your relatives as we call upon the students, faculty, and fellows to light the candles on behalf of the entire school. I'd like to first call upon Rabbi Einhorn to light a candle on behalf of the faculty in memory of his relatives.
I light this candle in memory of my great aunts and uncles, siblings of my maternal grandfather, Fredel Bas Yaakov, Binyamin Ben Yaakov, Chaim David Ben Yaakov, Rachel Bas Yaakov, Leah Bas Yaakov, Malka Bas Yaakov, Gitcha Bas Yaakov, and Fagel Bas Yaakov, from the city of Pilz, Poland, where they died is unknown.
I'd like to call upon, on behalf of the freshman class, Eva Ingber to light a candle in memory of her relatives.
I light this candle today in memory of, from my mother's family, Yitzchak Meir ben Rav Yaakov Shpiro HaKohen, Chaya bat Rav Yaakov Shpiro HaKohen, Malka bat Rav Yaakov Shpiro HaKohen, Zisa bat Rav Yaakov Shpiro HaKohen, Hirsch Tzvi ben Rav Aryeh Honeg HaKohen, Chaya bat Rav Aryeh Honeg HaKohen, Rivka Shpiro, Rav Yaakov Shpiro HaKohen, Fredel Honeg, Rav Aryeh Honeg HaKohen, and from my father's family, Chaim ben Shmuel and Freda Ingber, Aige bat Moshe Elimelech and Chaya Rikel, Fegi Gittel bat Shmuel and Freda Ingber, Fagel Esther bat Yosef and Rivka Klapholtz, Sarah Leah bat Avraham and Fagel Eigerman, Regina bat Avraham and Fagel Eigerman, and the rest of their families who perished. Yehi Zichron Baruch.
From the sophomore class, David Bauman, please come and light a candle on behalf of your memory of your relatives.
I light this candle in honor of my maternal grandparents, David Shlomovitz, and the rest of the family.
From the junior class, Lauren and Rebecca Kahn, please light a candle in memory of your relatives.
We light this candle together and on behalf of our grandfather, Emil Weingarten, Zichrono Livracha. As a Czechoslovakian Jew in Hungary, he survived the initial stages of the war by forging papers for himself and many others. Later, he hid among partisans in the Tatras Mountains. Unfortunately, 3 of his brothers did not survive the war.
We also light this candle together on behalf of our grandmother, Mimi Kahan, and her sister Lily. They survived Auschwitz while, unfortunately, their family was amongst the millions who were killed there. Our grandmother's mother and youngest sister were sent to the gas chambers upon arrival. She never heard from her brother and father again. After several months of living through the horrors of Auschwitz, our grandmother, standing in line, witnessed Mengele select out her closest sister.
We remember the inhumanity and the flames of death, with this flame of memory, mourning, and hope.
From the senior class, I'd like to ask Geffen Oring to please light a candle in memory of her relatives.
I light this candle in memory of my relatives, Moshe Oring, Rachel Oring, Avram Oring, Sonia Zissel Oring.
Finally, I'd like to call upon fellow Noah Stein to light a candle in memory of his relatives.
I light this candle in honor of my great-grandparents, Edmund and Jenny Burnbury, and many other relatives who perished during the Holocaust.
Again, I encourage you to please think of the name of the person on the candle you hold, learn about them, and when you get home, light the candle in their memory. Please give your attention to Rabbi Harkstark.
My father, Zichrono Livracha, was a Holocaust survivor. He was born in Lodz, spent 5 years in the Lodz ghetto from 1939 to 1944, and was then sent to Auschwitz and was liberated subsequently from Dachau. It was common for Holocaust survivors after the war to socialize with each other. As you heard in the presentation, they could understand each other like others couldn't. And so my father, his friends, They weren't sports fans or moviegoers. They were Holocaust survivors who gathered together and told stories and spoke in Yiddish a lot. And there was one man who would come to our house every Sunday, every other Sunday afternoon, where I lived in Brooklyn. He, as you can imagine, was an older man, had never married. He lived on his own in an apartment in Flatbush. And I, as a young boy, remember that he would come over and speak to me half in Yiddish. I didn't understand him, and ask me questions that made me uncomfortable. And he would come Sunday after Sunday, sometimes every other Sunday. And if you can relate, it was kind of, again, he's coming. And one time I was probably 8 or 9, and he didn't drive, he used to take the bus. So my father said, okay, I'm going to drive him home. His name was Moshe. Driving Moshe home. I was home alone, so my father said, okay, you're going to come along, I'm going to drive you home. And I'm like, okay, it's enough. And I got really angry. I said, you know, it's every Sunday, and I have to go down. I'm driving him home. And we dropped him off, and my father said to me, I want you to know something. Moshe was in the Lodz ghetto together with me. And me and my family, we slept in one room, the 6 of us, for years. And Moshe used to be, he was taken every morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, out of the ghetto to work in the bakery. And every couple of days, at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, we would hear on our door a knock. And again, as you saw, you jump when there was a knock. But they learned, because they would open the door, see it was Moshe, and Moshe would come in with his pants bulging. And he would undo his pants, and he would take out a loaf of bread. And that's what it was. Every once in a while, Moshe would bring him a loaf of bread. And my father said to me, that Moshe, he saved our lives for a long time. And I remember hearing that story, and in hearing that story, a life being transformed from an older man who got in my way as a kid to a holy person. Totally different dimension. Every person is a story. The event, the gift that we were given this morning is, we heard 6 stories. And every year on Yom HaShoah, I'm animated, I find myself moved to try to hear and understand another story. And in some years, for myself, I find I want to hear another story of a person who perished, what happened in a particular town. And in other years, I feel like I want to hear another story of someone who survived and how they recreated their lives. I am so inspired. It is so amazing to me that 6 survivors in their 80s and 90s have shared with us, have brought to life those stories. And I'm embarrassed to say, but it's probably true, how many of us would walk by each of these people in the supermarket, on the street, in a shul, wherever we might be, and not even notice. It's natural. But then you see, these are holy people. Every person is a holy person. And in this context, everyone has a holy story that we need to uncover. One message that we must take from the experience this morning is that it is our obligation to redeem every story that we can. And that is why there is Yom HaShoah, and that is why we commemorate it the way that we do, in the hope that all of us from year to year will do what we can to redeem every story that we can of someone who died, or someone who was able to survive. And that's the first message that I'd like to share with you. The second is I want to talk with you briefly about transmission. As Jessica said in the beginning, we just celebrated Pesach, v'higadat levincha, the obligation to pass on from generation to generation. In that instance, Yetziat Mitzrayim and the Exodus. Here, we have an obligation to pass on from generation to generation the experience of the Shoah, the tragedy, the destruction, and ultimately our ability to rebuild, or our parents' and grandparents' ability to rebuild Jewish life. And again, I want to contrast for you for a moment. My experience might be different from your experience, which will certainly be different from your children's experience. And I'll share with you just one brief observation from my life. My father, I realized as I got older, I knew that people who were in concentration camps had numbers on their arms. And at some point, I realized that my father did not have a number on his arm. But when I looked closely, I saw that he had one green dot. And I asked him, "What's the dot? And why don't you have a number?" And he said, when he was transferred to Auschwitz, it was already towards the end of the war, and he was in the seat where they were going to tattoo a number, and the Russians were bombing. And everyone, when he was sitting there, the Russian planes started to bomb that area, and everyone ran for cover, as did he. And so they had started, and he had some green mark in there, but that was all he got. And for me, I remember that mark, one dot, was a constant reminder. The transmission needed no words, and I didn't have to take any action. I didn't have to do anything. And frankly, in my family, as kids, we would say, "We've heard enough. We need a break," because my father would talk about it all the time. And that dot was transmission without a word. But it is precisely because of that that I feel so proud and humbled when I look at 7 students, your peers, for whom it wasn't just there in their face, but they invested of their time over 8 months, hours a week, to redeem those stories. And that required an act of commitment, not because it was delivered to them the way that it was to me, but a decision. I need to know, and I need to share. And we all know that your children, for them, they're never going to have the opportunity to meet a survivor. It'll be history. And whether it's a living history or not is going to be in all of our hands. And so the second message that I want to leave you with today is the obligation to do what we can, to create memory and to transmit to the next generation. Because if you don't take that to heart, your children will not know, because it won't be there by itself for them. And lastly, last night, I should say this presentation has been sponsored and supported by individuals and a number of organizations. And Mr. Eric Goldstein, who's the CEO of UJA Federation, supported this WiTNESS Theater in the various places around the city. And Self-Help, it's a remarkable organization that provides support for Holocaust survivors. They shared the following statistic, which I did not know. In the New York City area, there are 60,000 Holocaust survivors still living in the New York area. More than half of them are living in poverty and are alone. And what Self-Help and UJA Federation have done is try to figure out what can we do to help these holy Jews for whom we have tremendous responsibility. And so the third thing that I want to bring to you is that there are things to be done, that we can act and act now. And so I conclude by just reviewing these three things, which from my vantage point are important for us to take away from this morning. 1, redeem every story that we can. 2, think carefully about how we transmit and what we can do to transmit the history, the memory of Jewish life and Jewish tragedy to the next generation. And finally, to figure out ways to be able to act even now. And it is my hope and our hope that through that, we can remember our past in the hope of building a secure future for Am Yisrael. Please rise.
El mole rachamim, shochem bamromim, hamtzei menuchana chana, al kanafei hashchina, b'malos kedoshim etaharim, Kizoah rakia mazhirim Eskol haneshamos shel 6 milyonei haYehudim Chalalei Shoah beIropa sheneheragu shenishchatu שנשרפו ושנספו על קידוש השם בידי המרצחים הגמונים הנאצים עוזריהם משום העמים Lochein Balarachamim Yahastireim V'seisek Nafav Li'olamim V'yitzro B'tzror Achayim Es nishamoseihem Alinoi hu nachalosom V'gan Eden tehei menuchosom V'yamadu legarolom L'keitz hayomim V'nomar Amen.
At this point, I ask everyone to please quietly file out of the auditorium and continue to 6th period.